Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we've got another amazing story coming to us from the US. We have Kathleen Tedder coming on today. Kathleen was born in Oregon in 1951 and raised in Florida. Her jobs were as a paramedic slash nurse, a volunteer firefighter, a CPR instructor, and volunteered at American Legion for 10 years. As far back as she can remember, she has had visions and paranormal visitors throughout her life. She has memories of 4 abductions at ages 9, 16, and in her 50s and 60s. Once, she was returned with a broken rib. She has communicated with 3 ghosts and 1 shadow being. 2 golden orb beings saved her life seconds before a serious car accident. She has always been psychic and had an internet site called Merlin, pronounced Merlin, where she read people's spirits guides for them. She never charged for this service. She has an ability to hear trees speak, and on certain days, she can dissipate clouds with the energy from her third eye. She has a natural gift of doing C5s since she was a teenager. She is trained in remote viewing by a student of Major Ed Dames. She is telepathically connected to higher beings daily and is working on a book regarding her paranormal events. She has always been in service to others and hopes that by sharing her life experiences that she can help others understand what they're going through. She has always felt blessed by her contacts with the supernatural. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited.
A lot of us experiencers, we tend to start having these weird experiences as a kid. Did your otherworldly experiences started too at a young age?
I feel I was around 4 years old with my first, what I feel was a moment in my life that stayed with me all my life. I was in Alaska. I was 4 years old. My parents were musicians and they worked at night. So we often had aunts, uncles, or whoever to babysit us. So I felt alone. I didn't feel like I could, ever cry out to anyone because I was pretty good. I was a good kid at 4 years old, pretty brave. But this one night was a thunderstorm and it was scary. It was so very scary. And I had woken up from the lightning and thunder and I laid in bed for a while and I was just building more and more fear. And I didn't know who was babysitting and I didn't know who to call to regardless. So I just laid there and all of a sudden this lady appeared at the doorway, not walking through it, but just sort of appeared there. And it was dark, but I could see her. And she was, I can't say how tall, but because I was little, but she was a beautiful lady. She was very beautiful and she had long red hair, beautiful long red hair. And I just thought that was so pretty. She walked over and she sat down on the bed and she took my hand. And she said, "Why are you afraid?" And I said, "Well, she said, "Don't be afraid. You don't ever need to be afraid." And she held my hand and she says, "You're never alone." And she did a movement like sort of like this with her hand. It wasn't like a snap of the finger. It was more of a circular movement. And all of a sudden, a real bright, I mean, so bright I could barely see through it. Bright light came on in my entire room. Very bright, painful where it hurt the eyes. And I squinting to see what I was seeing. And in every space around me in my room, there were these beings, different beings, all of them smiling. It was like flying monkeys, like Sasquatch, like humans, like small. I remember the small humans that were about 2 feet tall, but they were adults. I just remember faces and lots of different faces, and they were all smiling and sending me love. But they were in every space in the room. It's hard to explain how I could see every dimension all at once, but that's what, as I got older, I feel like that's what happened. She sort of opened the dimensions for me for a brief moment. And she said, "See, you're never alone. You have nothing to fear. You always have somebody with you." And poof, then she was gone and the lights went out. And I laid there thinking about it for a few minutes. And of course I fell back to sleep, but I never forgot that. That woman was so beautiful. She had long red hair and big eyes. I don't, probably green or blue, lighter eyes, pale skin, but very beautiful. And she had on a dark cloak type thing, not a hoodie or anything over her head, just a dark It could have even been velvet. It looked soft, you know, it looked long and soft. And that's the clothing that I recall of her being in.
What type of eyes did she have?
She looked very human, but she looked more beautiful. My mother was beautiful, but this woman put my mother to shame. This woman was so beautiful. I just stared at her like I was seeing a fairy godmother or a princess, or I don't know, something very special.
Oh.
I remember they were big eyes, but not bigger than normal, just big and bright, beautiful eyes. You know, everything about her just glowed with beauty. And I felt loved. And I also felt from that, I felt that as I grew up and got older in life, but never forgot that, I felt I'm never alone. So I can't do naughty things like little kids could do. You know, no stealing, no nothing like that, because somebody's looking, because there's some being around me at all times. And she told me that as a little girl, and I kept that in my mind. So it kept me from being naughty as a kid.
Damn. Did you like grow up with the fear of the dark, like fear of the closet, fear of, you know, beings under the bed?
I had scared times of beings under the bed, yes, but not of the closet for some
Okay.
reason. And I didn't mind running up and down the hall in the dark. No, I wasn't afraid of the dark.
Okay.
I
Oh.
don't believe I was. Just under the bed, I used to run to the door and then jump over about 3 feet to the bed to get in so nothing could grab me.
You remember any lights coming from outside into the bedroom?
No, I don't think I do.
Okay.
I don't think I do. Although once in the same house that I was in, where I will later tell you about, when the oak tree,
Okay.
there were some flashing lights in my house and in my room at one time. I think I forgot to mention that yesterday. Three or four flashing lights and sounds that went with it that I recall.
Okay. So this happened at the age of 4. So
Yes, that was at 4 years old.
okay.
And a lot of people would say, oh, that was a lovely dream, but it wasn't a dream. I was wide awake, and I know this. I know it very well.
Okay.
So that stayed with me for quite some time and for all my life. And then as I got older, we moved to Florida, and I was around 9 years old, and we had a break-in in our house, and my mother had been alone, and it scared her so badly that she had 3 bolt locks put on every door in our house, plus the regular key lock. And these bolts were, one was above, one was sideways, and one was down into the floor. So you had to work at it. You couldn't sleepwalk. You couldn't, any kind of way get out of the house without undoing all the 4 locks. And this one night, I don't remember the night so much. I just went to bed, and it was morning, and I hear my mother hollering my name. Where are you? Where are you? You have to go to school. We have to go to work, and she was frantic. And she had looked in my bedroom, looked all over the house. The doors were locked. And I sat up had been laying down under an oak tree. I realized I'm on the ground. I'm outside. I'm under an oak tree. And I sat up and I looked, and my favorite quilt was laid out on, as if it had been put out there, like made on a bed, just perfect, just laid out. And I had my favorite pillow with me, and I'm looking around, very shocked. How did I get outside? Had no memory of coming outside or getting outside, just that moment. And I thought to myself, I feel so good. And I can't quite put that into words, but I felt better in that few moments when I first woke up than I probably ever felt in my life. It was just an all over wonderful, great, fabulous feeling. And I couldn't get over that. Why do I feel so good? Sleeping outdoors, I thought maybe fresh air does that to you. I'm a little girl of 9 years old, but so anyway, my mother opened the doors, and I knocked on the door. I don't recall which, but I got in the house, and then we had to hurry and get off to our life that day. And we didn't talk about it. We never mentioned it. We never spoke a word of it. It was just sort of a shock to us both, but we let it go after that. But I never forgot, because how did I get out there? Why did I feel so good? But I had no memories, no dream, nothing to say I had an abduction or a good or a bad experience. I don't know. I just know that I came back or landed in that under the oak tree feeling wonderfully, So that was
your mom panic?
My mom, she was a hard cookie. She was a little panicked, but she didn't dwell on it. She just, let's go, let's get things done. You know, she was just, let's go, go, go.
Wow.
So yeah, you would, if it was me and my children, of course I would be crazy over it. You know, I would be so worried. How did that happen? We can't let it happen again, and etc. You know,
Yeah.
but no, she didn't. She just, off to work we go. You know?
Okay.
So again, it was just sort of never spoken of, which was kind of odd to me too. And I didn't know about UFOs. I didn't know about abductions. I didn't have any idea that such things were even going on, even though I did watch a few sci-fi movies. It still didn't, you know, it didn't enter my mind. And I don't recall ever even thinking of looking for marks on my body. I know a lot of people that, you know, have been abducted have found that. So I didn't do that either. I just got up and went about my day feeling wonderful all day about what in the world, why did I feel so good?
Yeah, well, I've been told a lot of stories about, like, even like personal friends that woke up you know, at night outside of their house with their you know, the house being locked and having no key to come back in. So yeah, it's clear an abduction, because you can't just, like,
I never
especially as a
thought of it
kid.
until my 60s that that's what had happened. I just didn't put it together. I never thought about it. I read all the books growing up, and even up into my nows, I still hunt for UFO and alien books and interesting paranormal books and, you know, truth, lots of truth books, you know. And anyway, I never had a thought about it for all those years. I just let that one go as a mystery, a paranormal mystery, so to speak.
You've never been regressed?
I haven't. I would love to. I would love to, but you know, it costs some money, and I live on Social Security, so you know, it may come up. And I'm getting older, and I would like it to be done, just because I don't want to lose my facilities up here, you know, and not be able to share that if there is a message in there or a lesson.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would love it, but I haven't had that opportunity.
So what happened after that?
Oh, let's see. Well, also around that age and in that house, my sister was 2.5 years older than me and bossy. And I was a little squirt, and she would get on my nerves and make me very angry. You know, do this, do that, you know, kids. And she would make me so angry and so mad that I would sort of yell at her, run out the door and slam the door, because I could always outrun her, even though I couldn't beat her up. She was the one that swung with her fists, and I was the one that could outrun her. So I would run outside, slam the door, and climb up this secret trellis I had, and I would get up on the roof of my home. And I would hide there from her. She couldn't find me anywhere, because there I was, you know, up on the roof hiding. And I would be so full of anger when I got up there. You know, this is not my mom. I don't know why she can boss me around, and, you know, blah, 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 that you do as a kid. And I found myself, I would look at, there would be lovely little clouds in Florida back in those days, little marshmallows, as I always call them, marshmallow clouds. And I would look at several, and then I'd pick out one in the center of them if I could, and I would sort of focus in on it and just stare at it. And I found that within no time it would disappear, and the others would still be there untouched. And I would, when it was over with, I would sort of pat my back and go say, oh, that was cool that you could do that. And then after a while, I had a little watch I got for Christmas or something, and I started seeing if I could, when I would do that, I decided I'm going to see how fast I can do that. And I found I could do it in under 5 minutes, which I guess that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Solid concentration, sort of. But so I started loving doing that, and as much as I could, and the clouds were right, I would run up on the roof and do that, and take my anger and put it up in the cloud is what I used to think I did. Somehow transferred it, but it made me feel better after, and then the cloud was gone, and I don't know if that's good or bad.
Wow.
So yes, I found I could dissipate clouds at a very young age.
How long did you do this?
I probably did it for maybe about a year. And then life changed, and I got older, and I forgot about it. You know, I just forgot about it. I never told anyone, never told my sister, never told anyone, not my best friend, just kept it to myself. But okay. I knew I had that one down. I could do that. And, you know, I did it a couple times later.
And that house where you lived in, did you have any like ghost activity?
We did a little bit. there was three of us, my sister, my mother, and I, and we were forever blaming each other for cabinets open, things moved, drawers open, the simple little things. But we were always just blaming each other. We never thought of anything other than that. And of course, noises. A few times I'd heard my name called, and I'd get up and look the whole house, and nobody was there. And I mean my name right out. You could hear it quite loud. Sounded similar to my mother's voice, but she wasn't there. Nobody was there.
Oh,
So I've had that happen a few times.
okay. I had my trash bin open and closed at night.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had doors, and I was alone,
Oh my
even
God.
with people in the house, but we just threw it up to the wind at that
Yeah.
time. There's the
Mm,
wind.
wow. Well, you talked about in your bio, be able to understand trees or speak to trees.
Yes, I've always had a green thumb since I was a little girl. I don't know where it came from, but my mother would buy plants and turn me loose, and I grew the most beautiful gardens in our homes. All my life I did that. And I started hiking about 5 years ago, and we went to the redwoods, and we went here and we went there, and I started getting these messages, telepathic messages. In the redwoods, I heard things such as, "They're raining bots on us. It's suffocating us. Can you help us?" That's what I was hearing from the trees. And I told my friend at the time, my boyfriend at the time, I said, he was a shaman, and he kind of knew some things to do and say and focus on, so to speak. And I told him about it, and I says, what can be done? I said, if the trees are crying that they're suffocating from whatever they're dropping in the sky, and they're telling me this, I said, what can we do? So he did some shaman things, and he
Oh,
feels that he helped.
oh,
And I'd like to say he did, because I didn't get that message the next times I went through those same redwoods. But
beautiful.
then another time in the Sierras, I was hiking again with him and a couple other friends, and I was just feeling beautiful, just nature, just being quiet and walking through, and my hands out, just trying to grasp the vibrations or whatever. And a tree said to me, "Turn over the rock. I have a surprise for you." And I heard that in my head loud and clear. So I saw two rocks. So I reached over and I turned one over, nothing, just the rock. And I put it right back where it was, turned it back. And the second one I turned over, there was a painted rose on it.
Mm.
Some kids or someone had painted a beautiful rose on this rock. And the tree told me, "I have a surprise for you." And so I took a picture. I took a picture of the tree, and I don't have them any longer, unfortunately, but or maybe someday I'll find them. I don't know. I'm not very techy with these things, but yes. So I found the trees talk to me in those two instances and a few others, but those were the two main, to me, eye-opening messages
Wow.
that I got.
That's a first for me.
One on
Wow.
Facebook, and way back I did post a picture of the rock, the rose on the rock, but I've lost track of it now.
Okay. Oh, so
But yes,
okay.
trees talk to me. They do.
That's a blessing. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I
The,
feel
the
like I'm
thing,
in tune with nature that way. I feel like
yeah.
I
See, everybody should be like you. We'd be more responsible with the environment. Yeah, at least.
well, yes. If you ever listen, sometimes they'll tell me things like there's bicycles that are disturbing us. It's like maybe I'm on a bike path or something, and they'll say things like that, and I'll go, okay, but I can't do anything about it. I mean, there's little things that if we thought about it, maybe there's better ways to go. Maybe there's not a way to hurt a tree as we do, as we do about our daily lives, and we go about our daily lives. I know in one of the countries in Europe, they build roads around the trees. They don't tear the trees up. And it hurts my heart to see lumber trees and,
Oh, yeah.
and trucks, and you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
tree bones, especially when I know that they're killing them alive. I mean, it's trees talk, people.
True. I used to hug trees.
I do. I still do.
That's.
Yes,
I'm in the
that's a
city
good
now,
thing.
but yeah.
Now I've started a new thing. I would ask them, I'd say a little, sort of like a little prayer, and I'd say, "May I hug you? May I touch you?" Because I'm starting to feel like, maybe us humans are just out of our realm. We're just a little pushy, and maybe that tree has a bad day and doesn't want to have it. I don't know, but I've started doing that, and I feel better about it, because I feel like, yes, the tree accepts me, and then I try to close my eyes and feel the energy of the tree and put my energy with the tree. And I think it's healing.
It is. Yeah, I used to hug this really big tree and I had trouble disconnecting myself from it because how I
Exactly.
felt.
Exactly. I've seen sort of when I've had my eyes closed, I've sort of seen waves of energy of colors coming through the trees. Just when their eyes are closed and I'm embracing the tree, I see it's sort of its aura, I guess. I guess that's what I'm seeing. I don't see people's auras so much, but I saw the trees.
Okay. So regarding experiences, we got up to when you got abducted. And so did anything of consequence happen after that? Or...
You mean the clouds, or where are we?
No, well, when we talked about the clouds, but you also talked about waking up outside. And
well, like I said, after it was over with and we didn't talk about it, I pretty much just put it aside and forgot about it. I never forgot it. Like I said, I always wondered who, why, how, all those questions that come up.
Okay.
But I didn't really have too many. I found also around that same age that if I had too much energy, like for instance, one time my mother entered the kitchen and I entered the kitchen from a different door, but at the same time, and I had stopped and I just I for some reason looked up at the overhead globe light and it exploded. It just exploded. My mother said, "Why'd you do that?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't know I did, but I think I had too much energy, but I didn't know what energy was." And but so I think I was kind of having the need to learn to curb those things.
Did you well, a lot of experiencers with magnetics or I guess electronics, they do tend to disrupt them. Did you have like trouble with electric watches?
Yes. I get them. I don't wear them anymore, but when I was nursing and I had to take pulses and such, yes, I was forever having to get batteries or new watches. They wouldn't last. They'd say a year or 2-year warranty or something, but they never lasted more than 6 months, maybe, and sometimes not even that. It just depended. So yes, I did have that.
Do you know your blood type?
Yes, I happen to be Rh negative, O negative, excuse me. And I am also a little pinch of Native American and Celtic. And they say that those are the things that are very common with abductees, green eyes, things like that. I don't know that because I don't know everything, but I happen to have all of those issues.
When we spoke yesterday, you talked about a lot of psychic abilities.
Yes, let's see, around, I'm going to say I was a little older, maybe 10 or 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. I found that if I could touch or hold on to someone's piece of jewelry, a ring, earring, necklace, something that they had on their body, that I would get a complete picture of past, present, and future of their lives. So I started just blabbing out what would come to me, just sort of automatically saying what I felt and what I heard or whatever, however I got these messages. And I found that I was giving very, very good readings to these people. And so I didn't even know what readings were, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I somehow could just feel get certain messages from their jewelry. So I did this. I did it for 2 or 3 years during those years in that age. And then when I got a little older, I did it for a gentleman who, I was probably 17 or 18, but I read for a gentleman and I had a lovely message for him. And 20 years later, I was with my mother and he flagged me down and he says, "I recognize you." And he told me that I gave him a reading 20 years before, and it was so accurate that he had been searching for me ever since. And I was kind of shocked, but he said that, and he said, please give me another reading. And I couldn't because my mother just had chemo and she wasn't well and I was taking her home. So I had to pass, but we didn't have cell phones, so I didn't think to get a phone number either. So I probably would have done that, even though I hadn't done it in a lot of years. I have no doubt I would have gotten a good message for him. But so that's kind of the things I would get feedback, so to speak, from different ones about things that I did. Well, I never felt it was me. I just felt I got a message from wherever, wherever, wasn't from me. And never thought about it actually, where it came from.
Do you still do readings?
I do not. I do not. People ask me all the time. I still get messages for them and stuff, but I started feeling that I was opening myself up to too much darkness for a while. I wasn't sure, like I said, I started having insecurities as to who's giving me these messages and such. So I quit. I shut it down. I still have the ability. I just don't.
Okay.
I don't put it out there any longer.
Understood. I've had at least two guests in the past that would also be able to receive messages while touching a certain object. You know, they'd enter an antique shop, and then they get the entire history somewhat of the object. So.
Yeah, I would get past, present, and future real quick, like in just a couple minutes of holding it in my hand. You know, using my left hand for some reason. I am left-handed. Maybe that's why. But
okay, there you go. More to it. Okay. Okay.
Negative, you know.
Do you have other psychic abilities? Do you hear voices that speak to you of the future, stuff like that?
Well, I've heard my name called
Okay.
loud and clear two or three times. I've had telepathic messages, like I think when I told you about the Orbs later in my life.
Okay.
I had a near-death experience with that.
Visions, perhaps? Third eye visions?
Well, I've had warnings, and I'll say warnings that this couldn't have happened.
Okay.
For instance, when I was a young girl, all my friends were getting drafted to Vietnam, and we were having music festivals and sit-ins. They call them sit-ins, peaceful protests against the Vietnam War. And there was several, but I went to this particular one at the University of South Florida, out in the public area somewhere. And there was probably, I'm going to say over probably maybe about 4,000 or 5,000 people at that. It was quite a few people there. And it started early and it went all day, and it was going into the night, and it wasn't real late, but it was dark. It was dark out. And all of a sudden I heard real loud, "Time to go home," real loud. And in my head, it kind of got my attention, and I packed up my little goodies and I started walking home. And it's a main road near the Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida. And it's one main road meets up between Busch Gardens and the university. So I'm walking on this road, and I'm alone, and it's at night, and I notice military trucks, one after the other, all these military trucks. I'd never seen such a thing anyway, but let alone going to where I was coming from, you know. And so I got home and I went to bed, and the next morning I found out that they had a terrible bit of a fight, and several people were injured. Several people were arrested, and I guess the military was called in to put it into it quickly. But somehow my angels got me out of there, as like I said, I was passing all these military trucks. And so I've had that voice.
Beautiful.
Whether it's my higher self or my creators or my guardian angels, I don't know.
Yeah.
That definitely happened.
Yeah, there is something out there watching over us. Like, yeah, some of us do get proof. So I'm glad you got protected. Wow.
I know. And then another time I mentioned to you before, sort of a funny thing, way back when I was 16-ish, and I went out. I was visiting some friends, and I went out the back door just as the police were coming in to raid them in the front door. And I literally just walked out the door and down the alley when they surrounded the house. And I guess they busted them for marijuana back then, as what I guess happened.
Did you receive a message
I received a message, "Time to go again. You know, just go right now. Just leave," you know. I'm not even sure if I heard it or if I just felt it, but all of a sudden it was just like out the door I went. And the funny thing was I had to walk. I don't usually go out the back door of their home, and I had to go down the alley and around to go to my car. I had a car at 16. Always had a car, it seems like that. So, you know, it was kind of odd that why did I go out the back door? And, you know, it was just very odd to me, but it was like a warning, another one of those blessings that happened.
So cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So what other types of experiences did you have? Did you have any other experiences as a kid, or did things stop?
Well, I was a very busy kid. After I quit doing the rings and the jewelry, I tried other things. I started very young reading Carl Sagan, you know, sci-fi, you know, some pretty Asimov, some pretty heavy books for a kid, but I started reading a lot of that kind of thing, and some paranormal books were out, and I always absorbed those right away. But I decided I'm going to learn the tarot cards, and I started playing with those a bit. Oops, sorry. So I started playing with those. Now I'm getting up near, maybe jumping a little bit ahead, but I'm around 18 years old, and I'm invited up to a group, a beautiful big farmhouse up in Macon, Georgia, where there are some very, very famous musicians that are living there and coming and going through there and jamming or whatever they do, And I got blessed to be invited to go up for a weekend. And so I brought my cards, and one of the people that lived in the home asked me to do a reading. And I can't name names, I won't name names, and they have all passed. But so I sit down with him alone, and it's quiet, and I throw the cards. And I'm shocked because I knew this gentleman's history, that he had been a heroin user. And that was sort of in my mind. But the cards came up with all the negative, like the death card, the hangman, the certain group of cards that were all as negative as you could get. So I see this, and in my mind, I flashed to myself. I said, maybe I influenced my own thinking, but I said to myself, uh-oh, these are death cards. He's going to die. And I'm thinking it's him because of the heroin. So I sort of put judgment there when I probably should not have done that. So I put my poker face on, and I said, oh, I'm having a little problem. Let me do this again. And I shuffled them real well. And I threw the cards, and the same cards came a second time. And I couldn't believe it because I shuffled them quite well, and I'd never had that happen. So again, I'm poker faced, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm about to lose a good friend here, and everybody's going to be sad, and he's so talented and such, goes on in your mind. So I said, I'm having a blockage. I said, let me try it a third time. And he was nice and, friendly, and he let me do it. And I shuffled even better. I shuffled the heck out of the cards, and I threw them. And the third time, the same cards came again. And then I just I was shocked because I knew, oh my gosh, this is the end for this guy. This is saying without words that this is going to happen. And I hated to do it because people knew that I could read the cards, but I couldn't give him a reading. So I just told him, I'm having a block. I just can't do it today. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow or another time, I told him. And I just let it go at that. Well, within, I'm going to say less than 6 months, his brother was killed in a motorcycle accident. And one of his other musicians in the band also died in a motorcycle accident. Oh. And the third one that was in the home at the time was very famous, and he was in the UK, and he overdosed and died as well. All of them within, I'm going to say within about a 9-month period at the time that I was reading the cards for him. So then it came to me, it just flat on when the third one went, you always hear things happen in threes, but in my mind, I realized that was what the deck was trying to tell me. And it wasn't about the gentleman, it was about an overall bigger vision that I could have seen had I not already put in my mind that he was going to die of a heroin overdose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I learned a lesson from that, and I pretty much put them away, and I hardly ever used them again. It sort of broke my heart to lose those 3 friends. Yeah. So so that happened. So I learned to do that quite well, and then I put those aside.
Okay. Well, I can't blame you.
Well, yeah, when you're 18, life is so full. You don't want to think of death, let alone 3 times in no time.
You talked about when did the UFO thing happen to you?
I was 16. I had moved out of my home, and my mother had married, and it wasn't good there any longer. And I had moved in with my best friend who had a little baby, and we shared this cute little house way out in North Tampa. And it was sort of almost in the middle of an orange grove, and it's a large orange grove, not a small one, but maybe an acre or maybe 2 acres, maybe 5 acres. I don't know. I never could see the whole thing, but I used to hike in there quite a bit. It's quite a ways. So we just this one little house, and then there's a little pond, and that was a happy place where she and I keep her baby when she worked and such like that. And anyway, we had lived there for probably a year, but one day I'm in the bathroom and I'm looking out the window, and I see a large, dark, sort of silver dark, not like black, but like dark silver It didn't, it looked metallic, but not quite metallic, like what I would think of what we have as metallic. It was a UFO. It was coming just over the top of the orange groves, just skimming over the top. It was completely silent, and it was so big I couldn't see anything but sort of a cigar shape type thing coming towards my home. I hollered for my friend, and we ran outside, and it was still coming over the trees, and we started doing the thing that you do when you're absolutely crazy, jumping up and down and waving at it. We were doing that quite a bit, and I could see it. Like I said, it was so big I couldn't see all around it, but I could see the front window, and it was coming at us at an angle, and I could see some side windows sort of in the center of it, or on one side of it. I couldn't see the other side at all. And we looked up, and we could see beings. And when I say beings, again, I first made eye contact with what I felt was a male with long white blonde hair, not just blonde, but white blonde hair. And he was in a white robe, gown type, robe type thing with gold trim. It was beautiful. And my first thought was, to be honest, Jesus. I thought, oh, he has a glow like Jesus. And I felt this purity, this beauty about him. I can't quite put it into words but that's what I felt, that he was pure and older. I could see old, not old like we have old, but older, wiser, maybe. It's hard to put into words too. Anyway, my thoughts were of Jesus and the glow and the beautiful, just, I don't know. It was a beautiful thing. Then I kind of scanned the group, and I could see military uniforms that were pretty much humans, but they didn't look like ours. They were a little different. I did see, I forgot to mention this before, but I did see a triangle shape on one of the fronts of one of the uniforms that they had on.
The military?
It wasn't like our military, but they looked like military uniforms.
So like no camo type uniform?
No.
No.
It was, they were dark colored, dark blue or dark, almost black, but not real dark black. It's hard to explain that one.
Okay.
But anyway, they had these dark uniforms on, and at least I felt that they were military types, not, like I said, not like ours, because my stepfather was in military, and I've been around it, so I kind of knew.
Okay.
And I grew up near MacDill Air Force Base, so it's around a lot of military. But so it's coming at us, and we're looking, and we're probably still jumping up and down, or maybe our mouths are dropped open by now, and we're just staring into this. And I saw what reminded me of the same kind of things I saw at 4 years old. All the different beings that when the dimensions opened up, I felt like I was seeing those people, those beings, some of those beings again, like the flying monkeys and the Sasquatch types and the, I suppose grays. I remember the little people that I always thought were so beautiful. They were about 2 inches or 2 feet, about 2 feet tall, but they were humans like us, or they looked like us, but 2 feet tall. And I was very fascinated. Beautiful. And so anyway, we probably stared up. I can't honestly judge time because it was a while ago, but I'm going to say just maybe 2 minutes. And that's all we remember. I mean, that's absolutely the end. We don't remember it going over. We don't remember it passing. We don't remember anything else about it. But we woke up the next day with the most horrible headaches, both of us. We were just bedridden the next day with headaches. And I had gotten up and finally drugged myself out, and I went to get a Sunday paper. I'm pretty sure it was a Sunday because that's the only time I'd go get the paper. And when I brought it home, I was shocked, but I on the front page was a hand drawing that the University of South Florida, they had a brand new planetarium. And the professors there, I guess when the craft left our area, it went straight, which was in that line, I would say, in that airspace towards the University of South Florida. And I guess it went right over them next, and they drew pictures of it and had it in the Sunday paper. And they described it as big as 3 football fields. Now, I don't remember seeing the rest of it going over. I just remember seeing that vision at the beginning. And then again, we both woke up with headaches. We never spoke of it. We didn't talk about it. I showed her the pictures in the paper. She went off to work, and whatever went on with our lives. But we're still friends to this day, and I'm almost 71 years old. And around 65, I asked her one day, I said, do you remember the UFO? And she had to think about it for a minute. And then she goes, oh, yes, I do remember. And I tried to get her to tell me what she did remember, but she was very busy and we didn't get to it. We never got to it. I even asked her one time to write it out for me, but she never did. But
How tall is an orange grove? The tree.
I'm going to say 10 to 12 feet, 12 to 15 feet, maybe.
And how far above the UFO was from the?
Oh, they were just almost touching it. They were just barely above, and it was completely silent.
Yeah.
It was absolutely silent, not a sound, nothing. It was just.
Well, no wonder that you were so close that you were able to see the front window.
I often think I try to judge that distance. I'm going to say 50 to 100 feet. Sometimes I slip and say yards, but I mean feet.
Mm-hmm.
It was not far. It was not far at all. And it came and it stopped. That's the thing. Of course, why wouldn't it? We were jumping up and down like crazy people trying to get it to stop. But it was just a very, it was just very bizarre. And like I said, we can't remember it continuing on or anything like that. It just,
Now, when you woke up the next morning with that throbbing headache, did you have nosebleeds?
I didn't.
On that,
I
okay.
did not have, no. And I.
But you did. You did have
wouldn't have-
nosebleeds in the past.
I have had nosebleeds right up until 2 days ago on out. Which I'm going to get it checked again. As you get older, sometimes you got to go have the doctor look.
Okay. But as a kid, did you have nosebleeds too?
At one time when I was, I'm going to say 12 or so, I had a nosebleed that was about 4 hours long, and it was so severe, and my mother was missing. Nobody could find my mother, and it was at night after school, bedtime. And a friend had to go get her father to come and help me, and he held my nose and helped me for 4 solid hours. I just poured and poured and poured, and we couldn't go to the hospital because we couldn't find my mother.
Okay.
So yes, I had a nosebleed that was almost unreal. I was a paramedic and worked emergency rooms, and I honestly have never seen anything as severe as what I actually went through in those 4 hours.
Okay.
So yes, I have had some horrendous.
So you were never aware of a weird bump that appeared after an event?
No, I never thought to look at my body. I was a busy kid. I was just active. My sister would get up and she'd go turn on the TV. I'd get up and I'd say, see ya, and I'd be outside, climbing trees, running, playing. I was the outside kid and she was the inside kid.
Yeah.
So
growing up in the 50s and 70s, and we didn't talk about ETs.
No, there was no one to talk to. No one. There was no one to ever talk to. I never thought that military would be the ones that would end up being the ones that would be more aware than anyone else. But I didn't know that until much later.
So your mom was your go-to person when things happened?
My mother and I were very close. Yes, she almost codependent, unfortunately. When I would move away from her, she was from Florida with all her family in Florida, and my father and her divorced, and he was in Oregon, and I loved Oregon, and I wanted to be with my dad, and I wanted to be in Oregon. I didn't like Florida, although I went to school and graduated, the whole years in Florida. But every chance I would get, I would try to go to Oregon and try to live there. And my mother would call me. She did this twice in my life. One time it was, I have a plane ticket waiting for you. You have to come home. I have a brain tumor. Well, I'm a kid. I'm 16 years old or 17, somewhere in there. And so I'm flying home all crying and worried about my mother. And when she picks me up and I said, Mom, how are you? What's going on? She starts laughing. She didn't have a brain tumor. She lied. My mother lied to me twice. She did that to me. Yes, twice she got me back from Oregon. And I always felt when I got back into Florida, I got stuck. I always got stuck here.
Yeah.
And I couldn't seem to get away again after a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, she
funny.
We were very close right till the end, and she actually passed. I cared for her for 15 years. She had 3 different cancers during those 15 years, and I cared for her during all those chemos. She had every chemo known to woman or man, and finally there was nothing more. But her hair never fell out. I always found that very interesting. And but when on her last breath, we were in each other's arms. I put her to bed and I wrapped my arms around her and we were interlocking our fingers this way and we fell asleep that way. And I realized in the middle of the night, 4 or 5 a.m., she wasn't breathing.
No.
So we were very close, very close.
Oh.
He was a good person.
Okay, so what happened after that? I remember you talked about I think an event in the 2000.
Oh, yes. Because I'd cared for my mother all those years, I hadn't dated, I had not been out, I hadn't done too many fun things to speak. And my mom knew I loved live music. And so I told her, you know, I want to put you to bed. And then I went to the fireworks department and I bought a whole trunk load of fireworks for my son and his friends so they could have a party because we had a lovely piece of property up there and it was a wonderful place for them to have a party. So I brought the fireworks home and I told the kids, I'm going to go out tonight. I'm going to go hear live music and I'm just going close. And they knew where I was going. It's about 15 minutes from my home and it's on an off road. So I felt that even if I had a drink, I wouldn't get pulled over or have any trouble. So I thought that's the place to go. So I did. I dressed up. I left about 9:15 and I went to the club. I don't recall the name of it. And I sat with a lovely Marine who danced with me. He was a young man who was very polite, very sweet, and he just kept wanting to dance. So I danced the night away, so to speak, and enjoyed it. I had a good time. But I have a problem. I've never been a drinker. And if I drink 2 drinks, I'm going to throw up and I'm going to ruin my evening. And I don't like to throw up. So I never drink 2 drinks. So I know that I only had 1. And I also, before the end of a night or the end of anything, if I do have a drink, I want to water it down with a Coke or something else, you know, and sort of to sober up, so to speak. And so that's what I had done towards the end of the night. Just refreshed it with Coke a couple times and drank that 1 drink. Now I did order 151 rum. I might not have said that before, but it was 1 shot. Like I said, 1 drink. And so the big ball's coming down, you know, in a countdown, and it's, you know, it's now midnight, and everybody we watch the ball come down, and everybody's on the dance floor, and they're hugging and, you know, saying Happy New Year to everyone and things like that. And I just stayed for just a few minutes, and I asked the gentleman to walk me to my car, and he did. He was very polite, like I said, and he walked me to my car, and I would bet money that it had only been 15 minutes since the ball dropped. That's the way
at midnight.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
okay.
wasn't going to stay. I was worried about my mom and the kids, you know, having this party and such. And it was time to go. I did what I wanted to do. I went and let loose for a few hours. So I got in my car and I headed on my little 15-minute route. It was quiet, peaceful, you know, no insignificant. I pulled up into the yard and there's 3 young men, my son's friends, all looking a little bit frantic. And one of them was very close to me. And he said, Mom, where have you been? I said, what do you mean, where have I been? I went dancing and the ball dropped and I'm home, you know, kind of that simple to me. And he says, no, we've been worried about you. I said, why? And he pulls his watch up and he shows me it's 3:15. 3:15. And I have no answers. I have absolutely no answers. Missing time. I didn't know about that. I didn't know anything about missing time again for another 10 or 15 years. I had no idea. But yes, that happened. And now he's passed away. So I can't ever say, Kyle, can you write that down for me or document that? But he's passed also. But yes, that's what happened on New Year's 2000.
So you left the club at, let's say, 12:15 at max, and it's a 15-minute drive. Correct. Then 3 hours, you do appear at your place 3 hours later. So
correct. It was very dark. I remember it was a dark night. I remember the drive was, you know, just insignificant. It was just 15 minutes. And like I said, I'd sobered myself up before I left, you know, and
well, yeah, you were abducted. Okay.
That's the thing. And again, I didn't know to look for spots or marks or anything on my body. I didn't have any idea.
How did your children feel when you got back?
Well, because they had partied and drank, except for the 3 that were meeting me at the gate. My son, he was probably off with a girlfriend. I don't remember, but nobody ever said anything else about it. And I'm sure they were probably a little hungover or something from the night. I don't know. But yeah, it was just, nobody mentioned it except the one young man that showed me his watch.
Okay. Wow. Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So that was I guess, to my knowledge, the first time I had missing time that I knew of.
Okay.
Mhm.
You talked about studying under Mr. Like a student of Major Ed Dames.
Yes. One of my friends, my dear friend, my ex-boyfriend, was in the Army as well as in the Marines, and he studied directly under Major Ed Dames, remote viewing. And I had, well, I learned from him as best I could, but I realized I had been doing that all the times I was using my psychic abilities, and I didn't realize that's what it was about. I just I didn't connect a lot of dots until way up into my 60s. I just didn't put things together. Prior to this, before I was officially trained in remote viewing, I had a psychic site in my, I'm going to say early 50s maybe, and it was called Merlin, which is why I keep it as in my Facebook group. And on that site, I would, it was under a sub-site called KundaliniTantra.com, and it's still there, but I don't know how to access it any longer. I believe it's, shut down probably, but I have pulled it up a few times. But regardless, what I decided to do was to try to give readings from home on my little PC, and not have to interact with people, because I had to be with my mother. She was sick. So I started this, and this one lady, I was very blessed to get to read her. Her name was Carolyn, and I hope and pray someday I can ever meet with her, really. She was in the area by Area 51. I forgot to mention all of this to you. Her husband worked at Area 51. I didn't know what Area 51 was, and I had no idea what she was trying to tell me, but couldn't exactly tell me, couldn't speak out freely. But she did tell me how scary it was that her husband would have to drive and be parked, and then take a bus, and then take a flight, and then return.
Yeah.
She was telling me this really strict security.
Yeah,
She
the
was trying to
protocol,
tell
yeah.
me things.
Mhm.
And if my mother hadn't been sick and I'd had more focus, I would have picked up some more things from her. But regardless, she asked me to read her spirit guides, and that's what I did. I read spirit guides. People always want to know who's around me, who's on my side, things like that. And I read her spirit guides. She was Native American, and she was so easy for me to read. Later, she told me she tried to block me so I couldn't read her spirit guides. She told me that later. But I did. I read them, and I actually came up with the name of one of her grandmothers.
Oh, wow.
That was one of her guides. And I'm not Native. I don't know Native. I just wrote down the word that kept flashing in my head. And she told me that was her name. And so she confirmed that I was doing quite well with this online, remote viewing, so to speak, because I literally did go to her house. I could see the guides around her. So that's how I kind of did it. But I didn't realize it was remote viewing or had a name, so to speak. I didn't put that together. So I guess I'd been doing that just naturally during the time I had that site for 5 years, but I didn't use it a lot because that was a troubling time for my mother. And but I did, like I said, that was one that was pretty memorable for me, because I not only was accurate, but she kept trying to tell me about Area 51, and I didn't quite grasp it.
Okay.
And I know everything happens for a reason.
So what did he do over there? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
He was a scientist.
Okay.
That's all I got from her.
Okay.
And but she sure tried to tell me. I guess I just wasn't hearing at that moment. I still didn't know what the grays were. I think I'm going to say I was about 21 or so. I'm not sure, but when the book Communion came out with Whitley Strieber, I was on an airplane. I'm not sure where it's coming from, maybe Georgia, maybe Chicago, I don't recall, but I was flying into Florida, and a gentleman, a very handsome, nice looking, cleaned up gentleman in a suit, was reading the book, and I'm sitting across from him a little, candy corner, and I'm looking at that picture, and I can't take my eyes off that picture. And eventually he looks up and smiles at me, and I said, "Is that a good book?" And he says, "It's a life-changing book," is what he said to me. "It's a life-changing book." And he says, "Oh, and if I'm finished with it," he says, "I'm almost finished. If I'm finished with it, I'll give it to you before we leave." Oh, wonderful. And I'm hoping. He did. He finished the book and he gave it to me. Now, that was my first experience with actually thinking or seeing or feeling what an alien would be, could be, possibly was.
Mhm.
I even though I'd seen all these other beings, I didn't relate them as alien or ETs. I kind of more thought, sort of like when I was 4, that they were like an interdimensional or in our airspace somehow. I
Mhm.
just didn't focus on coming from outer space. I just
Okay.
didn't. So that was sort of an experience I also had. You know, synchronicity, everything happens for a reason. And he
True.
gave me that book, and it really was a wake up for me. Later on in my, I guess I'm in my 50s again, my daughter is a real estate lady, and she was going to drive over to my uncle's, and we were going through Tampa on one of our big major interstate highways, and it's rush hour. It's about 5:10 in the afternoon, and everybody's doing 80, and it's bumper to bumper, and it's like 4 lanes on each side of the road. And we're in a brand new Honda Pilot. And when I say brand new, it wasn't 3 months old.
Mhm.
And so we're in this brand new Pilot. She's driving, and I'm in the passenger seat. And I look across the opposite direction, opposing traffic, and I see a lady that looks like she dropped a cigarette. And she's going to lean down and pick up the cigarette. And as she's doing it, I see the wheels turning. And I think to myself, before I even have time to think to myself, I go, oh no, you know, this is going to happen. You know, there's going to be a big wreck. And so just as I see that, out of the air appear 2 golden, the most beautiful gold I've ever seen. And I can't even put words into it because it's brighter than anything on the earth I've ever seen. But 2 golden orbs appeared between my daughter and I, about the size of bowling balls.
Wow.
And I look at them, I absolutely turned and looked at them, and I could see movement within them. And I won't say breathing, but I just knew they were some sort of beings, some sort of life. And I know we're just about to get hit. I mean, we're just 3 seconds maybe from getting hit. And one of them moves towards me, and it's sort of on my shoulder, and it says to me, tell your daughter to hold the wheel steady, because she's going to want to turn it, but don't tell her to hold it steady. And that's kind of what I picked up in my head, not all those words, but you know. So I looked and I said, Tiffany, hold on to the wheel. We're about to get hit. And I said, don't turn it. And I said, just what they told me. And then poof, it kind of disappeared. And the other one moved over towards me. And in my head, I heard again, turn your body and look at your daughter as if you're never going to see her again. So instantly my mind went to, I'm about to die. I think I just had angels to be with me. You know, I don't know, but so I that's what I'm thinking. We're dead. I mean, there's just no way to beat this. 80 miles an hour, rush hour traffic, nowhere to go. And this lady's just about to hit us. And so I lifted my body and I turned it as far as I could. And I opened my eyes big as I could. And I stared at her, and then bam, you know, we hit. Now, I did get injured. I hit with my shoulder into the dash. The seat belt, neither one of our seat belts held us proper, and the airbags did not deploy proper. I would have died. I would have been face first into the glass and into the dashboard, broke my neck, my face, who knows what. But they saved my life.
Yeah.
Because I turned, I did have a double fracture on my arm, and my foot got broken in 2 places, and I was pretty messed up, but I didn't lose consciousness. And she only got a tiny burn on her, I believe her wrist from the airbag, and her knee hit the dash. So and it was an 8-car pilot when it was over with, 8 cars.
Wow.
And nobody else was hurt. I was the only one actually with broken bones, which to me, that's okay, because I'd already experienced that before. And I figured, I'm a tough cookie. I can take it. And I'd rather it be me than anyone else. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of the way I felt at the time. But all I could do when the ambulance was called and all the people were coming, all I could say was, did you see the orbs? Did you hear the orbs? Did you see the orbs?
Mhm.
I was just heavenly angels. I'm telling you,
Beautiful.
they saved my life. And I knew it. But they
Yeah.
were so beautiful.
Yeah.
I can't even express that glowing goldness that they were. You know, it's just,
Goes to show that we are being watched. We are being protected.
well, one angel would have been good. I had 2 that
2,
day. You
yeah.
know, yeah, it was quite an experience.
Did your daughter see the orbs?
She did not.
She did not.
She did not. And when it was over, I kept asking her all kinds of questions, but she didn't. You know, not at all.
Okay. My dad saw a golden orb a few months before my mom passed away, but yeah, it was 4-inch and it was like They had this weird, at first he thought it was like a Celtic cross moving within the orb, but it could have been like pulsating energy. So again, it reminds me of, an orb that could have been alive. So it could have been a being.
They are beings. That's what I realized instantly. I had before I'd seen orbs, just floating around in the woods or something, and I'd never even thought that it was a life force. I thought it's just an anomaly, or some new flower that blew something off in the wind. But I had seen orbs a time or two, but just not like that, and just little small ones, little white ones mostly. But yes, that was a blessing. That was the biggest blessing for me.
That's beautiful. You also talked about a shadow being.
Yes, in my late 50s, early 60s, I had a condo in Florida again, and I had a roommate, and I had a gentleman that was 6'5" and proclaimed to be Wiccan. And he was a neighbor, and he worked on computers. And I asked him if he would come and defrag my computer. And it was upstairs in the bedroom upstairs. And there's a balcony upstairs that opens up and you could see the lake. And so he was sitting there working on my computer, and my friend was up there talking with him. And we were all up there at first. And I had a dog. He was service trained. He was a very special dog, very sharp. And he had all the training, went to 2 years of some kind of school my son put him through. And he was with me, and he was usually very aggressive. He usually would growl and bark if anything was bad, or if anybody knocked at the door, and I couldn't let him around any other dog. He was just not good with other dogs. But anyway, so we're upstairs, and the doorbell rings. So the dog and I go walking downstairs, and I open the door. The dog just stayed at my side, didn't growl, didn't look upset, and that's real unusual for him, like I said. But he just stayed at my side, and I opened the door, and in comes this 4.5 foot, I'm going to say sort of an egg-shaped, dark, sort of round. I couldn't see arms, legs, or face, but you could see smaller head area, just, you could tell it was some sort of a upright being. And it sort of floated in, it crossed right in front of myself and in front of the dog. And it went up my stairs, just up the stairs, real slow, just floated up there. My mouth is dropped open. I see my friends, both of them at the top of the stairs. One of them is looking at the stairs, and the guy is inside a little bit, but he sees it too. And it goes floating between them, and then it just disappears out the balcony. Just disappeared. I didn't get any negative feelings. I didn't get any scared feelings. I didn't get any feelings. I just was shocked. Just shocked and amazed. So I had 2 witnesses on that one. Now the gentleman, when I got upstairs, I followed it up, of course. And when I got upstairs, I realized he had tears in his eyes.
Oh.
I guess it scared him, because then he left and he never came back, and he didn't even finish defragging my computer. Well, I think it scared him, but my friend and I, she just couldn't believe she saw it, and we just dropped it. But I was just shocked. I was, again, I didn't have any negative feelings or fear, nothing like that. Just there was another being, and there it goes.
Wow. Did you see through it, or was it really black?
Well, my stairs were a little bit dark. There wasn't really a light there, so I don't think I could see through it. I don't think so. But it wasn't solid either. It wasn't quite solid and firm. So it was like a heavy, dark smoke.
Okay. But you saw appendages, you saw arms?
I didn't see, it's hard to explain, but I couldn't see, but I could tell it was a head and arms and legs. Yet the legs weren't being moved. He was floating.
Okay.
Well, I say he, I don't know why I say he, but he floated. But yeah, that's, at first we had heard that one of the neighbor people, 18-year-old, had committed suicide. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I just saw a ghost with that. That's the way I kind of let it go. But I don't believe that is what it is. I really didn't. After I got a little older and wiser and saw 2 or 3 other ghosts, which I can tell you about those experiences.
Yeah.
If you'd like. But yeah, I didn't feel like it was a human type spirit.
Okay.
Something different.
So you didn't feel it was malevolent?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just felt like it was on a mission to go do something, and there it goes, there it goes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. You talked about someone that passed away that came to visit.
Yes. Again, I'm at my mother's home, and my mother had the cancers, and we had put secret cameras on my mother. She didn't know it, but we could see and hear her. And I could be in my room, and because she had cancer, we didn't want her to fall, or and we didn't want to sit in there with her. She was a heavy smoker. Nobody wanted to sit with grandma, So we had the cameras, and I was home with her, and I'm in my room reading a book, heavy into it, laying down on my bed. And I hear the front door open and close. It was a glass screen door kind of thing, and you could hear it very clear. And I looked at the camera, but I didn't see anything. I saw that my mother's head turned. I saw that in the camera, but nothing more. So I went back to my little book, and I'm looking at my book, and then I realized somebody's standing at the foot of my bed. And I look up, and there's a gentleman. Now, I forgot to mention the part where I knew the gentleman in life. He was military, and when I was working at the American Legions, I used to dance with him in a wheelchair. He was in a wheelchair. He was about 80 years old, and him and another younger man that were both in wheelchairs from the war. I would dance with them on the dance floor at certain times and swing them around and make them laugh, and let them be a part of it. And I enjoyed him. I didn't know him personally. I had never really talked to him or his wife, although they were neighbors of ours, 2 doors down, I guess. So my mother knew them, but I didn't officially, other than just wheelchair dancing is all I knew the gentleman. But when I looked up, that was the gentleman, but he was about 30 years old and in a uniform, standing like at attention. And I did recognize him, but I was just a little bit shocked, and there he is at the foot of my bed, this gentleman that's 30 years old now, strong and healthy. And I knew he had passed, maybe a couple months. I'm not real sure how long.
Mm-hmm.
So I hear in my head, "Where's Gloria?" And that would be his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very quick thinking, I'm proud of myself for coming up with this, but because I don't know what you say to a ghost, And the quick thinking, I said, "Gloria is waiting for you." I said, "Go out the door. She's 2 doors down." And I said, "Don't scare Mom on your way out, please." And that's all I said to him. And I don't even know if it was in my mouth or in my head, to be honest. I don't know. I can't quite remember. But again, I'm sitting there staring. He's gone, and out the door he went. And I heard the door open and close again. And I'm starting to shake myself back to reality now. And I get up and I go into the front room and I said, "Mom, did you hear the door?" She goes, I said, "Did you hear the door open?" She goes, "Yes, twice." I said, "Yes, that's correct." And she goes, "Why are you so pale?" Kind of that thing. She realized then that I was looking odd. And I said to her, "Your neighbor just came, your neighbor," and I explained to her. And she said, "Well, I did hear the door, but she didn't see anything."
Okay.
But she believed me. She knew, I guess somehow she knew if I told her something, it was the way it was, whether it was in reality or not.
Wow.
So yeah, so Carl and Gloria were my neighbors, and I never got to tell her that. I always thought it was too soon to let her know that her husband's ghost had come to visit. And then my mother passed, and then we sold the property, so I didn't really get a chance. But I still think someday maybe I will. I don't know if she's still there.
Mm. Well, yeah, I'm sure she'd take it because
Probably now,
Yeah.
but it was very soon after.
Yeah.
But it just amazed me that he came back so strong and young, like in his 30s or so,
Yeah.
his prime of life.
That's what. Yeah.
And again, in full military, which surprised me again. Why military? Even though that had been his life.
I guess he was proud of it, of what he achieved.
I think so, and that was his entire life. And I don't know. So I didn't, even at the dances, he wasn't in military attire, so I really had never seen him in a uniform.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, that happened.
Did other stuff happen after that because in the last 10 years?
I have I've seen a total of 3 ghosts, but I haven't seen any since then.
Okay.
The first one I saw, I was 18 years old, and a friend of mine had gotten married to a young man who was going into the Marines. and they were in town in Tampa to say goodbye to the grandmother and a few relatives. And she invited me down to meet her husband, and I walked down to her house a few blocks away. And when we got in her house, it was just a little house she was just renting for 1 month to stay and, just to hang around. It was a big empty little sort of what they call Florida home built, just a little wood box frame kind of place. But we found a Ouija board in that house. So while we're visiting, her husband goes out to work on the car, and her and I are playing with the Ouija board, and we get jibber jabber. We got a name or two, something like a Joanne. I can't recall the name, but so we got a name, but mainly we got just letters and jibber jabber. So we got bored with that in no time, and we put it up, but we left the paper sitting out. And her husband came in, and he came over, and we didn't have much to say, but he picked up the paper, and all of a sudden he started crying. And she and I are looking at each other like, what, why? And I guess she hugged him. I left the room. I went out of the room because, this is kind of personal, and I guess he told her that was a message from his grandmother, and that she was full Cherokee, and he was obviously Cherokee as well, or, full native. Mm-hmm. And so he had gotten a message. He did not tell me or her, maybe her later, but he did not tell me while I was there what that message said. So I really don't know, but he got a message from his grandmother through us playing with the Ouija board. So after that moment, I go in to use her bathroom. And there's a clawfoot bathtub in there, and it sits directly across from the toilet. And I'm sitting and I'm looking into the bathtub, and I see a 2-year-old baby girl sitting up playing in the water. It wasn't very much water, so it wasn't like, it wasn't much. And she was just sitting there. And I see her little face starts all of a sudden turning blue. And she takes a deep breath. She falls over, and the baby's dead. And I see this, and I'm like, oh my God. And I go running out of the bathroom. I didn't even have my pants pulled up. I mean, I literally ran out of the bathroom knowing I'd just seen a ghost. I had no idea why it was a baby. Like I mentioned before, it looked as real as you and I. It looked like I could have picked this little girl up. And maybe if I'd known anything, tried CPR, I don't know, but, back then. But I just ran. I totally ran out of the house. I didn't even stay in the house. And so my friend comes out and, what's the matter? And I told her what's the matter. And so she runs across the street to her grandmother. And the grandmother confirmed that there had been 2 years prior, there had been a little 2-year-old baby girl that died of pneumonia in the house. And well, I saw where, in the bathtub. That's where she took her last place. So that was actually my first ghost sighting that I recalled in my life. Wow. And then the gentleman was the second. And then a couple of years after that, in the same house that I was in with my mother, my cousin, she was a little goofy, a little crazy. She had a husband who was the sweetest man in the world, the nicest, sweetest man, hardworking. Everybody loved him. And they got into a terrible argument. They'd been married hundreds of years, maybe 25, 35, I don't know, but hundreds of years. And they had gotten in a terrible argument, and she threatened that, the divorce, and threw him off the property, and whatever happened. And so he during the fight, he left, and she comes crying to me, and, I'm with her. It'll be okay. You guys will make up. It'll all be okay. And so I hang with her for the day. And after a while, she says, Pete's dead. And I said, what? No, Pete's not dead. She goes, she starts crying. I killed Pete. Somehow Pete's dead. And I go, no, Marcia, you're crazy. Take some more pills and go back to bed. Because this was a lady that was on a high dose of medication at all times, just about. And so in my head, I'm thinking, no, she's so wrong. So a few hours later, we still don't hear anything from him. And she gets a call from the police department that they have found his body in a motel, something like that. And he had passed. Oh. In my opinion, he died of a broken heart, and I'm going to take that with me to my grave. I'm telling you, the man loved her so much, and it's just a big, ugly scene that happened before this all went down. He had a magazine there where he had circled some names of probably young hookers. He had a 6-pack of beer. He had a bottle of Cialis, or whatever those pills are for men. But after the death, the beer had not been touched. There was no empty cans. He had not had any alcohol in his system, and there were no drugs, and he had not taken any of the pills. So, in my opinion, he died of a broken heart. That's my opinion. But so I have Marcia move in with us. You know, she doesn't need to be alone, and she's not right anyway. And so we get Marcia to move in with us, and she's with us about a month. And she smokes cigarettes. And so she went out on the front porch to smoke a cigarette, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. And I'm then probably watching TV with my mother or something, but all of a sudden she starts screaming, "Pete's got me! Oh my God, Kathy, Pete's got me!" And she's screaming bloody murder. And she's, you know, so I go running outside, and I run outside. And the minute I opened the door and I got outside, it was like the brightest light you could ever imagine hit me in the eyes, blinding, totally blinding, but it was like strobe lights, like flash, 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 real quick, flash, 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 flash. It was lighting up. I couldn't see direct at it, but I could see around. It was lighting the whole yard, you know, for quite a space. And I grabbed her arm, and I started, first I said a little prayer, just out of habit. I said a little prayer, and I grabbed her arm, and I drug her into the house and tried to calm her down. And Pete was a strobe light.
Yeah.
You know, Pete was a strobe light. He came back to, I'm thinking, sort of make amends, or, you know, something, I don't know. But with her and her world, it was frightening. So it just scared her. And my mother saw the lights, but she thought it was the porch light. She thought we were flipping the porch light on and off real fast. So she didn't really see anything other than hysteria.
Still, that's confirmation. Yeah.
That was my third ghost.
Wow. So how do you feel about that? You know, all these experiences happening to you.
I never put them together as all being in the paranormal bundle. I looked at each and every one of them as a whole different sort of individual type experience. I just never realized that the paranormal was so vast, and there were so many different angles of it. You know, I didn't put those thoughts together until much later.
Yeah.
And now I see things differently.
It goes to show that life goes on. And, you know, even those that passed do communicate with us if they want.
Yeah. Well, my mother hasn't come, and my grandmother hasn't come, and my father hasn't come, but I know they're there. I still feel like I feel them around me.
Okay.
But no, they haven't come to me.
Wow.
But yeah, those are the three pretty good size experiences that I've had in my life.
So I guess you're not really afraid of death, of dying.
No, I'm not. Working in the field and having a near-death experience myself. I was in a coma for 4 days one time. So I experienced it myself briefly.
Did you see
Been in
anything?
a couple car accidents. No, I didn't. That's the thing I tell everybody. I'm sad. I must not have been important because I remember nothing, just darkness.
Okay.
I wanted to see the light. I wanted to get messages. I wanted something, but nothing happened.
Okay. Wow.
It's 4 days of darkness. No
So have you seen other types of beings or did you have other experiences regarding ETs after those that you talked about?
Yes, up in my 60s, I'm going to say maybe 66, 67. I'm asleep, and there's a boyfriend in the bed with me, so I wasn't alone. But I'm very sleep. You know, I'm very deep in sleep, but I feel like I'm falling, and I'm falling fast, and I'm falling a long ways, and I'm, you know, that fear you get if you've ever had a falling dream where you feel like you're falling.
Oh yeah.
Well, it was that dream, that very dream, and it seemed to go on forever, and then boom, and I hit. Now, usually when I have falling dreams, I don't remember ever hitting, but this particular time I hit, and I felt I hit, and so I woke up, of course, snapped me awake, and I woke up, and when I went to move, I realized I had pain, severe pain in my right side, and so I get up and I go in the living room, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I must have pulled something or whatever, and I sit around for 24 hours, and then by the next day I was in so much pain, I decided to go into the doctors, and I had x-rays, and I had a broken rib, and I knew that was not just a dream. That was much more than a dream. And I got mad. I felt, okay, you guys, you took me, but what is this about? You know, you've never hurt me. I don't know. You know, I was kind of, I was mad. I don't appreciate 6 weeks of healing time, you know, in this world and all that pain. So I was very angry with them. I was just walking around with anger in my head for those 6 weeks, I suppose. I was cursing them, and I decided, in a way, I decided that may have been a lesson, because then I wanted to start learning how to protect myself and start studying spiritual matters and things more deep on, how do you protect yourself from an abduction, or how, those kind of things. So I got a little bit, it opened my eyes to that, where I really got into studying different ways and shaman ways of helping myself that way. But after a while, after, I'm going to say maybe 2 months after that wake up, and I'm healed, I hear in my head real loud and sort of almost sweet, but loud and clear, "We're sorry. We're sorry." And then I put it together, and I realized, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. They just talked to me. Oh my gosh, they're sorry. And then I had to forgive them. You have to forgive when somebody's sorry, in that way.
Oh.
So I did, but I still kept studying on different ways of, aura protection and different spiritual things that way. I picked up a lot of books. As a matter of fact, last year alone, I was just looking through my Kindle and my Amazon. I probably read over 100 books last year. Most of them on spiritual or UFO or alien type paranormal books. Quite the reader.
Have you ever been, I would get a lot of taps at night, like double taps just to wake me up. Have you ever had that?
I did for a long time. And I also would wake up every single night at 3:15, which made me always wonder about that missing time, 3:15.
Okay.
I thought to myself, what's that about? I mean, and then you read other books and other people say 3:15 is the witching hour or something to that effect. Well, I don't know about all that, but in my life, it seemed to be a 3:15 thing in my life.
I'd wake up at 2:22, 3:33.
Yes.
Sometimes I'd wake up in a jolt, like I'd be sleeping on my back, and all of a sudden I was being forced to wake up to look at the clock, and 2:22, stuff like that.
I'd kind of like to share one more thing I thought of yesterday. I had a dream vision. I don't know if you can understand what that means, but it was more real than a dream. But I was sleeping in my bed, and I knew my body was in my bed, but my spirit was lifted out. Astral projection, or whatever you want to call it. I had 2 experiences with that. But the one time I was pulled out of my body and I was taken aboard a craft, and there were beings around me, but I couldn't see them. Somehow they had me in a sleep awake type feeling that I couldn't quite focus. I couldn't actually see clear with my eyes, but I knew there were beings moving about. And I was surrounded by these, I'm going to say maybe 5 beings, and they held up a plant, a potted plant with a flower. And the flower face of the flower was turned away from me. So I couldn't see what the flower looked like, but I could see its little arms, its little leaves. I say arms, but its little leaves. And it's about 2 feet. You said maybe 2 feet. And they handed it to me. And they said, "This is your plant child." And I put my hand out, and it wrapped its limb around my hand, like newborn mothers know what I'm saying. When a newborn is born and your baby wraps its finger around you, you get a feeling that is so special, such love from that little baby's finger wrapped around your finger. And that's what this plant did. And I actually saw the plant move like it wrapped its little limb around me, but it felt like a little baby's finger. That's what it felt like to me. And I got flushed with this love feeling of, oh my God, it is my baby, whatever that meant. Again, I'm in some sort of a different consciousness, whatever that meant. And so I wanted to see its face. And just as I wanted to turn it, they took it from me. And they said, "It's not the time. This is not the time." And zoom, then I'm back in my body, and I woke up and I sat straight up, and I felt like was not a dream. This was not a dream. I felt that baby around my finger. There was so much love involved, but somehow they wanted me to hold this potted plant being. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe it was just a dream. Maybe you're just because you love plants and plants communicate with you. Maybe it was just like that. So I prayed about it. I did a lot of this praying about things. When I had an answer, when I needed an answer, I would pray and pray and pray on it. And after a little while, I'm going to say less than a month or so, I got this full down, I'll say download, because it actually came in my head very suddenly, but it came, just filled my head up with this vision of what this was about. And what they told me, and I'm gonna say what they told me, was that these plants are half human and half whichever plant, but that the fruit from these plants will be our future medicine. That it'll have everything we need for our health, for our minds, for our bodies, whatever. So will each individual have plants that will be healing to us, our own personal medicines. And they kind of told me that. And I've written it down a few times and put it out there a little bit to see if anybody else had any experiences with the plant baby. But so I really don't, that was just, like I said, I can't say it wasn't a dream. It just wasn't a dream, but yet most people would say it was, but it really wasn't.
Well, sometimes
So,
they do feel like it, but later on you get more information regarding that, and then you do realize that something actually happened.
yes. Another time I'd like to tell you about when my mother was still alive and back in that same house.
Mhm.
A lot of things happened on that property. I was deep in dream and I literally astral projected out of my body. And I tried to look at myself and I was white and it seemed like a dress or I don't know, a robe. I was trying to look because I was aware that I was out of my body and I wanted to see. And I zoomed far around the earth and I dove down into this water, this dark, cold water. And I could feel the water. I literally could feel the water. And I go down and I'm seeing a ship and I go through the wall of the ship or submarine, whatever, whatever, it's down under the water. And I go in and there's 4 men screaming and in terror and they're being flooded. 3 men had on blue zipper jumpsuits and they were to my right. And then one gentleman that was in a white shirt that had lapels, like as if it was a captain or something to the boat. He was on my left and I had my left arm the whole time I was flying. I had my left arm ahead of me, sort of like Superman or something with this one left arm ahead of me. And I reached my hand out and I grabbed the gentleman and he grabbed my hand and I instantly pulled him out of the ship and I pulled him to the light.
Oh.
I can't explain the light other than it was the most beautiful, loving feeling. And I felt like somehow, I don't know how I did that, but somehow my spirit or my being took this gentleman to the light and turned him loose. And then I tried, after I let go of him, I tried to look at the boat again to see what boat. And I came up with RURSK in my vision. Dream vision, whatever, astral projection. So then I zoom back and I'm awake, and I'm truly awake, and I'm just shocked that this happened because I went to the light. I mean, just saying it is hard to understand or put into words, and the feeling there was just love, just enormous love. Hold on. So I get up out of my room and I go into the living room and Mom, let me tell you about this dream I had. And I had to tell my mom about the dream. And also the young man that had the watch at 3:15 was there on the couch with my mother that morning. And he heard this and he was with my mom and he heard it also. And I told her, I said, look, I even wrote out the name of the ship. And I said, look at this. I said, it was so real. I said, Mom, how does someone pull somebody out of a ship? And why couldn't I bring them all? Why did I only get to bring one? And millions of questions flooded me. And my mom says, go look at the paper. So I pick up it's again a Sunday paper. I pick up the Sunday paper and on the front page is the curse. The Russian submarine curse had went down, blown up, whatever it did under the water. So somehow I went into the curse and I grabbed a captain or a man in uniform of white, like I said, white shirt. So it's usually an officer, and pulled him to the light. And I was shocked. I couldn't believe it because I had one letter off. It was KURSK instead of RURSK. But I did. I'd written it down and I came out to show my mother. And so that was another event I had forgot to mention. what did I do? And what gave me the blessing to be able to go to the light? And how did I help that man? You know, so many questions in my mind to this day. I keep asking over and over.
Well, maybe you're doing something else when you sleep that you're not aware of.
Well, they say we go to school. They say they educate us from over there in our sleep days. I don't know.
Beautiful. I'm really glad you got into this.
Yeah, I'd almost forgot about that one,
Yeah.
that experience. I have so many. That's why I'm trying to slowly get them documented on a little bit Facebook and a little bit in my own little PC.
So you plan on write a book?
I would like to put them together and put it together as a book. Yes, a very simple, no holes barred, just my experiences. And I'm hoping and praying that by doing that, there's some other young person out there that goes through all kinds of different things and has answers, or at least someone to maybe open their eyes and help them along, because it is such a, you know, there's no one to talk to, and you just put it away because we're so busy in our 3D lives.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Kathleen.
Thank you.
I feel very blessed that you shared with us all these amazing stories. They're very heartwarming.
They are, and I'm sure there's lessons in there that I just haven't had a chance yet to focus on, and I hope to by putting it in the book. You know, maybe it'll be easier for me. But you know, I do, like I said, I do try to document some of these stories into my little Facebook site, and hoping people, like I said.
So if people want to contact you, they go through your Facebook site?
Well, that's the best place to find me. I'm on there every day, and you have the spelling. It's GMHERLLYN, and it rolls your tongue if you can say it in the Gaelic language. The gentleman that gave me that name and opened my website years ago, he was a monk and a Reverend Howell, and also a Vietnam vet who came home at 18 with white hair from the fear and the shock of Vietnam. But he was a good friend. So he gave me that name, and I've carried it proudly ever since. He said it means the female version of Merlin, and it's pronounced Merlin.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you. This was fun and easy. You made it very easy.
Thank you. It's been fun. And to those watching today's interview, hope you enjoyed it. Again, more interviews coming up. I'm Mr. Gray, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.